Hi everyone, you are viewing Cloud Ranger's Microsoft Azure training. I'm Sean Ismail, a Microsoft Azure MVP, and today it's going to be part 2 of the Azure Storage series, where we're going to talk about BLOB storage in particular, and I'm going to touch over some security stuff with cloud storage as I go through BLOB storage, as you see later how some of these things are related. That's my contact information down there, my email, Twitter, blog, LinkedIn, YouTube, as well as the slides will be available at slideshare.net/Sean Ismail after I upload this video. So you can get all my slides in that location. A lot of people still keep asking through email where the slides are. That's where the slides are. All right, so let's get started. So we're going to talk about, in more specific from part 1, the blob storage. In the last series, we discussed all type of storages, and today it's a full session on blob storage and some security stuff. So in short, what is a blob storage? A blob storage, or binary large objects, it's any type of file or binary data storage for storing unstructured data. And by that unstructured, I mean like documents, images, videos, log files, even virtual machine disks or the VHDs. So any file that you can sort of think of is actually a blob storage when it comes to the type of data in Azure. Okay, it will start making more sense as we go through some of the demo, the type of files that you can put in there. But just remember, as long as it's not structured and it's unstructured, it's most likely a blob. So a question might come, what is a structured data? Well, think about it. A structured data might be like SQL data. It's a structured. It has a schema. There is grammar and properties of that database. There's metadata on that data. So those are what structured data are. But when you talk about random data, like your files, like images, pictures, videos, log files on your server, those are unstructured because you can put all data together. It does not matter how large these files are. They can be of different sizes, different names. They can be all different kind of files in different folders, subfolders. So there's no structure there. So that's what it really means when it says unstructured data. Okay, so now a blob can be accessed, and in the last video we talked about through URLs, or a blob storage can be accessed by endpoints. And the way blob storage are exposed are how it says over here is HTTPS, the account name or the storage name over here, and blob.core.windows.net. And you can have a // and you can actually go and see the blob in there. And I'll go through that in the demo as well, that this is how your blob is exposed. I have to be a little bit careful when I say this is how it's exposed because there are things like private data and public data and how your blob is actually exposed outside. So we'll get to that when we come to security. So one concept I want to introduce with blob data, and it's probably one of the most important, is containers. And the way you have to remember, there's a lot of details on what containers are, but it's actually very simple. Containers are like folders. So in Azure Storage, when you create a container, you're creating some sort of a folder. It's not really a folder, but it's like a folder, okay? And a bunch of blobs can be stored in a container, just like how you store files in folders, right? So if you have a file with the subfolders or, with multiple files in there, that's how one container is, a folder, okay? So think about it. The way this container will work. So let's say I have a file called mynotes.txt. That's the blob name, okay? So this is a blob. End of the day, it's like a file. Well, it is a file. So the way containers would come to picture over here is that we know that this is how your blob is exposed. Now, we create a container. Let's say my container's name is my container. So it's just like this, a folder, and mynotes.txt. So this is how the container actually holds this blob. Okay, so it's like a folder holding this file. Nothing different. Just think of it like that and it will be very simple. Okay. Before I get into much more into the blob storage and go through demos and everything, I want to touch a little bit on the security. This is not the entire security when it comes to storage or Azure in general. The reason will be very apparent after I explain this, okay? And security is quite vital when it comes to any cloud services because the whole take out there, well, it was for a while, was that, how secure cloud is or your data is. So let's get into some security stuff. So Azure Storage Security. By default, all requests to an Azure Storage account require authentication. What I mean by that is that when we go and create a storage account like we did in my last session, and we created blob or we create anything in that storage, upload data or create a VHD file by creating a virtual machine, we keep going to the storage account and we see everything right in there. Okay? Actually, that's not true. The storage account is an entity by itself and it requires authentication. And Azure Portal does the authentication because you're the owner, so it passes that to the Azure Storage account, and it almost seems like it's seamless that you can just go into your storage, come in, come out, and do all that. In the backend, actually, there is some authentication that is taking place. And Azure programmatically generates a primary and secondary access key when you will create a storage account. And I briefly showed that in the last video, and I'm going to show you this access keys in this session as well, where this is located and how to get that, because we'll see that this is going to turn out to be pretty important. Okay. The way you get the storage key once your storage account is created is by get Azure Storage Key. If you're trying this with PowerShell, okay, you put in your storage account name. Let's say my storage account name was Ranger Store 123. It will go and give you your both primary and secondary key. Okay, if you want to create a key, either primary or secondary, and the reason you'd actually do that is because if you wanted to change the key, the way you do that is new Azure Storage Key, the key type here, I'm changing the secondary key, storage account name is this, okay? So just remember a couple of things. One, when you create a storage account, Azure programmatically will generate the primary and secondary access key for you. Nobody knows it. Think of this as a key, your password, okay? You need to access your storage somehow, that's how you do that. On the portal, it does not matter because Azure is doing that for you. But if you try to do this through a code, through PowerShell, to do a lot of stuff, you have to know your keys. And the second thing you have to remember is if you want to reset this key to something else because you thought that it got compromised or whatever, you can use the new Azure Storage Key commandlet to actually generate a new one for you. Okay, so the next thing, pretty important for your exam as well, is that the access keys offer full admin access to the storage. So when you go to your Azure portal, since it's already using the key in the backend for you, you have full admin access. You can see anything that's there in your storage account. Okay, you can download it, delete it, you can move it around, do whatever you need to do, because it gives you full admin access. In fact, when you're in PowerShell and you put in your key and you're trying to do any, operations on your BLOB storage, for example, we'll do that in this session today, you'll see that you have full admin access because you can do anything. And this creates a little bit of a problem. And frankly, full admin access is not the way to go if you're going to use storage for other things, where you're giving other users access to your storage through some sort of a code or program to do something. And that's why we have another Azure Store security thing. It's called Shared Access Signature, SAS. I'm not going to get too much into this. This is more of a development realm of a thing. You can go to Microsoft's TechNet, look much more into it. But the way shared access signature or SAS works is that you can grant access to clients that should not have full access. Means you are not going to give them full admin access to your storage. So you create an access signature. This is actually like an authentication mechanism, okay? In the backend, that's what is going on. It's authenticating you through different means. That's all I'm going to say to actually give you access to the storage. And it's also can be timed-based access, okay? So you can say that I want to give this person or this client access only for a couple of days, couple of hours. So it will pass a token that will only be, only be valid for a couple of hours, or it will be time-based, means it expires, okay? And SAS has SAS URI, you generate the URI, and that's how they will access that. And there's a lot more details too when it comes to development with Azure SDK, and shared access signature is one way you can do that when the application does not require full access to it, all right? So let's move on. So we are back to BLOB storage containers, okay? So let's go into a little bit more details on how to create a container and different kind of access that are there on the containers. So to create a storage container, obviously the first thing you need to do is have a storage account created. Once your storage account is created, you go in there and try to create a storage container. There are only two things that are required for you to create a container, is the name of the container and the level of access. The level of access is kind of the ACL of folders. So it's similar to, I mean, in context of folders, that's what it would be, ACLs. In containers, you have three access policies. One is private, which is by default. So if you create a container today, by default, it will be private. It can only be accessed by the storage account owner. You can access it through the portal, through PowerShell with your access keys, but that's all you get. Okay. And then you have public blob, which is public read access to blobs in the container. And you have public container, which allows public read access to the full container. So the difference between public blob and public container is both of them allow read access, but in public blob, you have no way to list the other blobs in the container. So you do not have the listing access in that folder, if you think of Windows Server kind of thing. So you can, if somebody tells you that this is the blob, you can access it through the URI and go and be like, okay, this is how I'll access it because it's public, but there's no way for you to see what else is there. With public container access, you have full read access as well as access to the full container. You have the metadata of the container. It tells you how this container, what this container is, and all the blobs in the container will be listed as well. And I have a little bit of a PowerShell over here to create a storage container. And the way we are going to do this is that let's go in to one of the demos where we'll create a storage account and we'll create a container both through the portal as well as through PowerShell. All right, so let's get going. All right, we are here in my Azure session or my Azure portal here, logged in. As you can see, under all resources, there's nothing there. Let's go ahead and create a storage account. So let's go to new. By the way, Azure Portal, which is portal.azure.com, it's come out of preview. It has been on preview for a while, like months or a year, and now it's out. So if you're using the old portal, which is manage.windowsazure.com, you should probably start using this portal. So all my videos, most of them most of the sessions right now are in this portal because Azure is supporting most of the stuff here. So let's go ahead and create a storage account, or you can come over here, go to data store and create a storage account from here. Okay, so let's go create one. For the deployment model, I'll keep it as classic for now. As we know from the previous session that this has to be something unique. So let's call it Ranger Store 123. Most of my demos are going to be here. It has to be a unique name, by the way. So if you don't get this checkbox here, it means that it's not unique because this is going to be publicly available through a public DNS. So you have to be unique. I'm going to just do locally redundant because it's going to be the cheapest option right now. For this demonstration purpose, I'm not too worried about high availability. I'm going to just put it in a resource group, Ranger Resource Group 1. And let's put it on a region. So your storage account is based on a region. And let's go put it in I'm going to put it in Central US for now. Let's do that. Pin to dashboard. Let's do create. Alrighty, it is creating the Azure storage account. So once that's created, I'll be right back. Okay, took about a couple of minutes, but it's there. Let's go to all resources and I should see Ranger Store 123. It's in Central US. I have created this storage account. Okay, once we create this storage account, let's go in there. And there are a couple of things I want to show you here. It shows what's the resource group it's in, it's available, the type of storage is standard, locally redundant storage, and it shows you the services, which is like the blobs, which we are talking about right now, files, tables, and queues that you can also see there. So a couple of things I want to show you here to start off with. Let's start looking at the keys, the security stuff I was talking about. So this storage account, when it got created, it created the primary and secondary key here. So this is the primary access key. You can copy it from here, or this is the secondary access key. connection string. Azure actually gives you a little connection string if you want to use your application to connect to it directly. And it's a primary connection string and secondary connection string. It takes this access key. So the reason there's a primary access key and secondary access key is you can use either of them to access your storage, okay? The only reason they have both is it gives you a way to do some sort of fault tolerant or high availability. So for example, if it's using a primary access key and you want to regenerate one, you can still use the secondary access key till you have regenerated the primary access key or have changed that. Okay, so that's why there are both of them. In the backend Azure portal, when we come over here and we are looking at all this stuff, it has already authenticated us with these keys. That's why you can see everything. It's the same is not for PowerShell, and I'll show you in PowerShell you cannot just access your storage account. You need to pass the primary access key or secondary access key to actually go ahead and get that. But I wanted to show you over here that the storage account already has the key created for you. Now let's go to blobs. That's what we are dealing with right now. When I click on blob right now, it will pretty much show me just nothing really. It just shows that this is the storage account. This is the service endpoint. So, range restore 123, which is account name blob.core to windows.net. It's available, it's storage, subscription ID. But as you can see over here, no containers found. You don't have any containers yet. Okay, so let's go and create a container. It's going to be very simple. I go to container here, and I go and type new container, for example. It's just like a folder name. And this is the access type. By default, as you can see, it's private. And then you have blob and container. So this blob is like the one that I was talking about, public blob and public container. They removed the public from there. But if you made it blob over here, it would be pretty much public blob. And if you do container here, everybody will have full access to the container. So by default, I'll keep it private. I don't want people to access this through the URI yet. And let's see. Actually, it can only be lowercase. My bad. So let's do new container. It does not like the camel notation. You can see it got a check mark over here. Create. And it will create the container. And the container, you can see, got created over here. Takes a couple of seconds to create, really. And there is no blobs in this container. Okay. Access policy, it should be private. So we can change that here in the future if we really need to. There are properties, they're deleting things and everything else over here. So you can actually store blobs in here right now. I'll show you how to upload blobs to Azure in a bit, but this is where you would come and do it. Let's see what else we want to see here. Let's go to the properties here. In the properties, it actually shows you how to get to this container. So you can see new container. This is how you do that with the URL, range store. Last modified, everything 000. There's nothing really here. And you can delete that from there as well. So that's how you create a container in blob services from the portal. So let's try to do this from PowerShell. And I do have everything ready over here. So let's go and create a new Azure Storage account. I know we already created one over here. So when you come to all resources, we have Ranger Store 123. That's a storage account. I'm going to go through the entire process, okay? So I just want to show you the entire whole thing, create a storage account, create a container, and everything else. I hope you can also see that. Somebody actually emailed me saying that the screen was too small and they had a hard time seeing this, so I increased this to 125%, so you should be able to see this screen. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new storage account, like a brand new one. And the way you do that over here, I don't want to run the whole script. I just want to run this line. So I can either highlight this and click over here, run selection on the top. And if I want to run the entire script, I would have done this. Okay. The other way, instead of highlighting it, if you put it at the end of the statement over here and do run selection, you don't have to select it. It will only do this one. But be careful, very careful when you do that. Yeah, a lot of things can happen when you don't know what you're doing here and you run a script. Can do a lot of damage. So anyways, I'm going to run this one line, this run selection. I'm going to create a storage account called range restore 123, same like my last one, but this is from PowerShell, so I put PS at the end over here. Let's go create that. It takes a little bit of time to create that, so I'll pause and come back. Alrighty, so the storage account was created. So let's go and verify that. Go to all resources here. I should see Ranger Store 123 PS. Okay, so it was created. Now let's go back here. Get storage account. So I'm showing you different PowerShell commandlets that are available to you to operate on the storage account. So get a storage account will actually show you both the accounts that we have right now in this subscription. So it'll be interesting. I have one register 123, and then I have Ranger Store 123 PS. It's showing all the endpoints over here. So you could use this to just access the blob. Then you have queue file, which we are not using yet to do all that. Okay, let's clear the screen. Now I want to show you the PowerShell way to actually view your access key. So the way you do that is get Azure Storage key, storage account name, and you need to put the storage account name to get that specific storage account's key. So when we want to see the storage account key for Ranger Store 123 PS, which you just created, it is showing you the primary and secondary. Okay, it's showing the storage account name and all that. So if you change that to storage account 123, just like that, this is a different storage account. So you'll obviously notice that it has different access key. They don't match, right? Because they're two separate storage accounts. It's a nice thing. Now, I want to show you something very interesting here. What if you want to regenerate a storage account key because one got compromised or whatever? Let's say the secondary storage key got compromised. So let's go ahead and run get a storage account key. So this is the primary and secondary key for the PS, register PS storage account. This is the key for the secondary one, and I want to change that. So the way you would do that is new Azure Storage key. The key type is secondary because this is the secondary key, and the storage account name is Ranger Store 123 PS. So let's go ahead and do that. And once it's done, it will display the storage key. And I want to show you the first one, the primary, we did not change that, so it is the same. So it's ZJ and equals to over here, the same over here. But obviously now if you see the secondary key, it got changed. This one starts with GQ, this one is QV, and you can see the storage account key got changed. Okay, that's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and create a container using PowerShell. So the way you do that is, like I mentioned, in the portal, the authentication for the storage account is being done for you by Azure, but in PowerShell, that's not the case. So the first thing you need to do is make sure you know the key or you get the key, okay? So usually it's you can always go and get the key and create the commandlet that way. I want to be a little bit more dynamic. So what I did is I'm using this one, get Azure Storage key, Ranger Store 123 PS.primary. So I'm getting the primary key first with this commandlet. So if you run this just by itself, you'll see it will give you the primary key. I'm taking that key and storing it in the store key variable. All right. So now I have access to the key, the primary key. I'm taking that and I'm creating something called as a Azure Storage context. So Azure Storage context means basically it gives you the context of the storage account. In simple terms, it means which account do you want to operate on? That's all it's doing. Okay, so I'm creating a new context and I'm saying the storage account name is going to be Ranger Store 123 PS. Okay, and the account key is this is the key that we had retrieved earlier. So I'm basically saying I want to work with the Ranger Store 123 PS, and I have the key, take that key, and that's the account I'll work on, and I'm going to store this information in store context. Means I'm going to grab the storage account. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that. Okay, now we have the context, means we know which account we want to work on. We have the permission because we had gotten the key, and now we are going to create the container with this commandlet, new Azure Storage container. And like I mentioned, that all you need is a name and the access of the permission. So the name is my PS container. That's what we're going to call it. And I'm going to give the permission as container or public container, means full access to the entire container to even see all the blobs and everything else. In real life, you probably want to do this as private for your purpose of things. Here, I just want to show you what you can do here. And the context means which account do you want to work on? Well, this is the storage account I want to work on, and that's the variable I'm going to pass over there. Okay, so let's go ahead and create the container. It's created the container. The way we can actually see that is one from the portal. So let's go hit on this storage account, go to blobs, and see what we see there. We should see that container created there. Okay, my PS container, it's created. Perfect. The other way you can view all the containers is get Azure Storage container, again, pass the context. So anything you do in PowerShell right now on that storage account has to have that context, means it has to hold to that storage account. So we say that get it for this storage account. So let's run this, my PS container. So we have created one. Cool. So we went and used PowerShell to create a storage account, get the storage key, create a context, means got a hold of the storage account, and now we created a container there in the storage account. Okay. Now, let's move on to the slides, and I want to show you some interesting stuff. I'm going to show you some PowerShell commandlets to show you how to access your storage in different ways. I just showed you in the portal, Azure Portal, how you can go and view everything, but I'm going to show you how to upload file, download file, doing everything from PowerShell, and those are the scripts. Okay, so I'm not going to waste too much time explaining over here. Let's go jump right into the demo. All right, so these are all the scripts that we are going to work on. It's the same thing I took from the slides, so except that I have the storage account name over there, Ranger Store 123, but it's Ranger Store 123 PS over here. So the first thing we want to do is get the storage context. Like I mentioned, and I keep stressing on that you need to get hold of the storage account. And the way you do that is first get the key of the storage account through this one, and you create the context. So now we know we have a hold on the storage, and we can do everything else over here. So we ran this commandlet in the previous, the last time when I was demoing you stuff. So let's go and click on this. It's actually showing you the container that we have, get a storage container. Okay. Now let's upload a file from your local computer to the storage account. And the way we are going to do that is I already have a text file here. Let's go to temp folder. In my temp folder, I have a folder called AZCOPY txt1. It's just a basic text file, okay? This is actually a blob in a container. On my computer, it's a file in a folder, but in Azure Storage, it will be called a blob. And we know a blob can be a file. So let's go ahead and upload this to the storage account. If I come over here, go to PS container, we know there's nothing here, no blobs found, because nothing is there. Let's upload something, this guy. The way we would do that is set Azure Storage blob content, okay? So we'll take some content, and we are going to put that in Azure Storage blob. The context is this one, which we stored from here. This is the storage account. The container is my PS container, which we know we created over here, my PS container, right? And we are going to store the file ctemp azcopy txt .txt. Let's go ahead and upload that. Run the commandlet. Depending on the size of your file, this is only 9 KB, so you can see the length is 9. Yeah, it's about, well, 1 KB, sorry. That's the length over there. And if you come over here, refresh this, you can actually see the file is already uploaded here. So that's how you'll upload a blob inside a blob container. You can do stuff with the file over here. Obviously, if you click on that, it tells you the file. It says it's 9 bytes, which is roughly about 1 KB. And it says all the stuff you can do over here. This is how you will access this file. So if you remember, and let's try this out right now. Let's actually copy this. If I put this over here, I should be able to see some text. The reason this is working, if you remember, is because in my PS container, when we were creating that, we made it public container. So people should be able to access this from anywhere. If this was private, there was no way we could read this file just using this URL. In fact, anywhere in the world, people can access this file through this URL right now. By the time you're probably watching this video, I might have deleted this, so you might not be able to, but if you try from different computer at this time, people have access to this. Great way to share file through Microsoft Azure Storage, by the way. And the other thing is, it was open, so everybody has it. Let's try this. Obviously, you cannot go to 404 container. You cannot see anything in there, but you can list with other tools and get everything in that container because it has public access policy with public container access. So that's how you'll actually upload the file to a BLOB storage container. Okay. Let's see what is there in the container rather than going from the portal. you can use a commandlet get Azure Storage blob. This is the storage context and container my PS container. So we want to see what's there in that container using PowerShell. So if we click on this, it actually shows you AZCOPY. It actually shows you this file through this PowerShell commandlet. It's a great thing to do. Okay, let's go ahead now try one more thing. I'm going to delete this file. Okay, so the only place I have this file is right now in my Azure Storage. How do you download this file? The way you download this is first you get hold of the blob. So let's actually get that. Get Azure Storage blob. This is the storage container, my container, and name. If you run this by itself, you'll see it will just give you the name of the blob. Okay, great. Let's store that blob name over here. Now I'm going to run this commandlet called get Azure Storage blob content. So if you remember over here, this was set Azure Storage blob content. This is get Azure Storage blob content. So I'm just saying, go get me this blob. And this is storage context. This container blob is blob. So we know the name. And the destination is ctemp. So if we run this right now, depending again on your file size, go over here, it should have downloaded this. Great. Very simple. So we have now uploaded file using PowerShell, downloaded file using PowerShell as well. Let's go ahead and delete that from the blobs, okay? So get Azure blob my container. We know this file is still there. Oops, sorry. We know this file is still there. Let's delete it. The way you would delete it is remove Azure Storage blob. This is the context, this is the container, and this is the blob name. I could have used $blob over here. I just get the full name. Let's try that. If we do a get Azure Storage blob right now, we should see nothing in there. As expected, it's all gone. Let's refresh this. It's all gone. Great. This is very, very simple. I mean, it can't get any more simple than this once you have learned the context of different, I mean, you have learned the concepts of the Azure storage, all right? This is pretty simple, but I'm going to show you one more industry-specific kind of stuff that we use when we're doing work in different organizations. Different tools that can actually make this way more simpler for you. But before I do anything, I'm going to show you one more thing in the PowerShell. I mean, in the portal over here. I'm going to actually create a virtual machine and show you something very interesting. So we know we have two storage accounts there. My store, Ranger Store 123 and Ranger Store 123 PS. In Ranger Store 123, let's go create a VM. So, compute. Because this is something you're most familiar with, right? I mean, you should be able to do this like no big deal. Let's make a classic virtual machine. By the way, I keep doing classic. So there's two deployment model, classic and resource manager. Someday I'll probably have a video kind of showing you the difference between the two. In most organizations, new virtual machines, we are creating through resource manager, obviously. So let's call it my Ranger VM1. Hopefully that's going to be unique. Username, password. Let's go make this nice and easy. Let's view all. I'm picking the size right now. And in the size, I'm going to probably pick on something nice and cheap. It's just a very small demo. So, yeah, A1 standard should do it. I'm not really going to log into it. So. All right, so standard A01. Let's scroll down a bit. Optional configuration. So let's go here. In optional configuration, I want to actually choose my storage account because by default it tries to give you everything for a new virtual machine, but I want to be a little bit more precise, and I'm going to say that I do have a couple of storage accounts. So I'm going to use the Ranger Store 123, not a random one that Azure creates for me. Okay, so Ranger Store 123. I'm going to leave everything else the way it is. Cool, cool, cool. Central USA, no big deal. I'll be back once this is created. Okay. All right, it's taking a while to create the virtual machine, but we should be okay to demonstrate this part. So let's go to all resources here. And all right, so you can see it's creating this virtual machine right now, classic. I'm going to go to our storage. That's what we are interested in, Ranger Store 123. This is very important to know. Anytime there's a virtual machine created, like I said in my previous session, anything related to storage stays in a storage account. So anytime there's a virtual machine created, the VHD file is actually a blob. So if you go to the blobs here, you should see that it will create a container, always the same container, VHDS, okay, virtual hard disks. Let's go in there, and you should see the VHD files in here. This is the one, okay? This is the VHD file, it's 127 gigs. So anytime a virtual machine is created, the disk, the VHD file, is technically a blob that will be created in the storage account under the container VHDS. So in enterprises, we try to keep the VHDs together, so we'll always have the same storage account for a certain location, and we'll store the VHDs together. So if you have more virtual machines, they'll start showing up with the .vhd and .status files for the virtual machines here. So I just wanted to show you that what it is about, and also to show you that VHD files are actually blobs. And we have been working with VHDs forever when we are creating virtual machines for other sessions. Okay, so this is pretty cool. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to go to the next slide. This slide is pretty interesting. So we have used a Portal to do storage operations. We have used PowerShell to do storage operations. I'm going to show you some nice tools we use in the industry to do a bunch of stuff really quick, really efficient. It's also done by Microsoft, so it's great. Okay, the first one is called AZCOPY or AZCOPY, depending on where you live. And you can download that from here, from Microsoft site over here. Download AZCOPY, and I'm going to show you a demo of what you can do with that. So I already have that downloaded here. So I mean, downloaded and installed here. And once you have done that, I have put that in my start menu over here. So run as administrator, it will look like this little blue thing over here. Okay, you can do a bunch of operations here. So let's do AZCOPY. When you just run it by itself, it shows you what it is, what it can do. If you want to see some specific commands, you can do this. It shows you all the commands of all the things that you can do with AZCOPY. All right, cool. Let's do something interesting with AZCOPY. So let's go to our storage account. And everything you can do with AZCOPY can also be done by PowerShell, but I'll show you why sometimes AZCOPY is much more easier to use for certain things. Okay, so let's go to the blobs here in my register 123ps. I'm going to just use register 123ps. It's nice and clean. There's not a whole lot going on in there. So I'm going to go and let's see, did we have a file in here? My PS container, okay. In my PS container, there's no blobs found. There's no blobs, okay? So let's go ahead and upload this file using AZCOPY. And the way you would do that, it's very interesting and easy as well. AZCOPY, you give it a source. For now, I'm going to just say take entire content of the temp folder. So if more than one folder, you can actually do the whole thing. Actually, let me show you that. Let me do test one, save. I'll show you. You can upload the entire folder using AZCOPY with just one commandlet. Destination. So the way you do the destination is pretty much put the URI. So let's cheat a little bit here. I'm going to go and do this one. I just want the endpoint. So I'm saying that this is going to be where things are going to be. Copy, paste. And we know that my PS container is the container where we want this. Okay. Now this is the thing. You still need the key. So the way you put that is the destination key. Okay. Let's go get the key. How do you get the key? Well, we had a commandlet over here that will get our key, our primary key. You can also go to the portal and get that from there. I'm just trying to do it in a cool way here. Paste it here. So I'm taking the entire content of the temp folder using this AZCOPY tool, and I'm going to upload them to the destination, which is Ranger Store 123, using the URI and the destination key. Let's hit enter. It actually tells you total files to be transferred was 2, successful in 2. If I come over here, refresh that, I can do that. So as you can see, rather than going one file by one, I mean, of course, you can do creative stuff with PowerShell and get the entire folder's content uploaded in a decent way. But I just wanted to show you that AZCOPY can do this in a much easier way. Okay, now I'm going to show you something really cool, and this is the value I try to provide you to show you interesting things that you can do with Azure, and we do this in real life scenarios at work all the time. All right, let's say my destination was actually one storage account, obviously, and my source was not my local computer, but it was another storage account as well. I'll give you a very good reason why you will need to do that. So let's see over here. And this is real life stuff, guys. I mean, you might be already doing this in your organization or other places. So we're going to take some content from Ranger Store 123 PS and we're going to move it to this storage account. Okay, so let me get the commandlet here. You can obviously do this in PowerShell. It's a little bit more complicated, but this is where AZCOPY comes in great handy way. So let's do this. I am going to say the source, if I can type properly, is going to be what? The source is going to be Ranger Store PS over here. Okay, it's the source. And in here, it is going to be the container. What's the container name? My PS container. My PS container. Alrighty. And what is my destination? I'm saying my destination is going to be another storage account. So let's actually try this. Ranger Store 123. We know Ranger Store 123 is going to be, actually that's the key. I need the URI, which is actually pretty much similar to this one, right? So let's try that. Ranger Store 123 URI. Remove that, make sure this is correct. I need the name of the container. I forgot the container name here. I think it was called my container. I will use one of the default containers here. New container. Okay, so I'm going to put this in new container. Alrighty. Now we need the source key. We need key for both these people, right? I mean, both these containers here. So the source key was going to be Ranger Store PS. So let's try that. I'll take the public key of this guy. You need that for authentication. Always remember that. Without putting this, it's not going to work out. So the source key is going to be pasted here. And destination key, we need this time a destination key, right? Because we are this time, I mean, we knew the destination key for the destinations. This time we just added the new thing, which was the source key. So destination is what? Destination is my PS account. I mean, non-PS account. So let's do this one over here. So basically taking the storage key for both these guys. So I have access. Having these keys really mean that, what does it mean? It really means that we have access to these keys. Otherwise, people will be able to, without this key, just come in your storage and do whatever they want. Can you imagine your VHDs are actually public and people can come and do whatever they want without having these keys? Okay. So the pattern, so this is how we want to say the file name that we want. So you can put a pattern here, or I can just put the file name directly. So we are trying to get what? We are trying to get, let's move AZCOPY txt file. Okay, let's try this one. Well, let's hope this works. So get Azure BLOB PS container. So I know in my new container right now, there shouldn't be any blob. This is my Ranger Store 123. But in my Ranger Store PS, I know there are these two files. And I'm moving this file from Ranger Store 123 PS to Ranger Store 123. Moving from one storage account to another storage account. Let's see if this works. Transfer completed successfully. So if I come over here, do this, I should see a copy. Guys, this is very, very important. I just used AZCOPY to just move one file from a storage account to another storage account where I knew the access keys, and I can do that. Can you think of, pause for a moment, can you think of a reason you'd ever use this? Well, yeah, one is to move files. I mean, like, Sean, that's pretty simple. We are moving files. What are the other things that you can do? Well, think about it. What other things do we store here? VHDs, right? So imagine a client came to you and said, hey, I have this old subscription where when Azure came out 3-4 years ago, I created all these virtual machines. I do not know what we did. All things are messed up. We want to start brand new. What can we do? Well, create another subscription, create a storage account. You know you are going to architect this differently and properly, but you probably do not have to recreate the virtual machines. All you can do is go to that subscription, take its storage key for the primary storage and where the VHD is located, and use the AZCOPY to go to a totally different storage account, to a totally different subscription, and just move the VHD file. So all of a sudden, you have this new subscription with a new storage account with all the new VHD files. And if you look at my previous sessions, I show you how to take a VHD file, create a disk, and create a new virtual machine. We do this all the time, and this is real life stuff, guys. I mean, you will be doing that for a lot of clients, even for your company, most likely. Somebody probably played around, made a virtual machine, but now that you know Azure more, after you watch my videos, you are like, hey, let me re-architect this, but I don't want to create new virtual machines because things are already created for me. But then how can I take this and move from one storage account to the other? The reason this actually works, by the way, because you can see over here, these two storage accounts were in the same subscription, right? I'm using the same subscription. This could be completely two separate subscriptions, by the way. The only reason this actually works because you have access to two things. One is the URI, which is the URL for your storage, the container, and the other one is the key. Without this key, you could not have done that. Once you have the key, doesn't matter if the storage account is in the same subscription, other subscriptions, one located in Asia, one in USA West or Central USA, it does not matter. It will do the whole thing for you. So this is a pretty cool tool, AZCOPY, to actually do this. Can you do this with PowerShell? Absolutely. But is AZCOPY easier? Absolutely as well. Okay, so this is a really good tool to do that. And we use this all the time. Cool. So let's go back to the slides. So I was showing you the cool way of using AZCOPY to copy files from a local computer, move from one storage account to another. You can probably try it out with different subscriptions or different things in your organization as well. Okay. There is that / question mark you can put on the console over there. After you have downloaded AZCOPY, it shows you all the other commands that you can do. Now, the other tool, it's called Microsoft Azure Storage Explorer. It happens to be one of my favorite ones over here. You can download it from storageexplorer.com. It's by Microsoft. It's another tool that's really, really cool to actually do storage stuff in. So I already have that downloaded and stuff. So Microsoft Azure Storage copy. Let's go do this. It'll open up a little tool. And what you've got to do is basically connect to your account. So let's go ahead and connect. So I create the little gearbox here. Let's add an account. Right? So you're going to put your account here. I'm going to put mine. Personal account. Put in the password. So basically, it's making a connection to my subscription. Once it does that, it loads the subscription. That's my subscription. Let's apply that. Just look at this. It's a Windows tool. It went and brought up my storage accounts pretty neatly. View blob container. As you can see, you can upload and download and do plenty of things over here. Very cool and seamless way. I'll see my VHDs here. So it's a tool if you are using your Azure Storage to upload and download stuff from your organization, your computer, other storage stuff, files, VHDs even, you can do it from here. Can you tell me what you can do with this tool? Something really, really cool. Well, think about it. You know this whole hybrid cloud thing where you have your on-premises and you have your cloud thing? Let's say somebody gave you a task and said, hey, go and take these virtual machines that we have here, do a POC, a proof of concept that this actually works in Azure Cloud. You can take the VHDs that you have in your organization, you can upload it to your Azure account. So all of a sudden your storage account now has a VHD. Watch on one of my sessions from before, how to take a VHD, create a disk, and create a virtual machine. That's called migrating your on-premise virtual machines to your Azure cloud. How cool is that? As simple as this. Can you do this with PowerShell? Absolutely. Using this tool makes it more simpler. I love GUI. If I can do PowerShell automation, great. If I'm doing a task many, many times, but if I can use a GUI to do something that I'm going to do this one-off time, great. This tool is amazing to do that. And I'm hoping that you're getting some value out of this session today, because these are the stuff you probably want to do in your organization, right? All of a sudden, you are this hybrid expert who can take all the virtual machines from your on-premise, put it in the cloud, show your organization how this can be done in the cloud as well, and maybe move some of the virtual machines over there, right? Pretty cool. So Microsoft Azure Explorer, this is another cool tool. So we have not talked about queues and tables. It can also do queues and table. It's a very nice GUI Microsoft File Explorer way of viewing your blobs. Cool. I think this is pretty neat too. Now the last one is Microsoft Visual Studio. So if you're a developer, this is pretty important for you. If you're not even a developer, you just do stuff in, or like using another tool to do this, you can use Microsoft Visual Studio as well. I'm going to show you real quick how to do that. Kind of looks a lot like this actually, to be honest. Let's do Visual Studio 2015. Let's load this up. Alrighty, it's loaded. I'm going to go to View here. And in View, I'm going to go to Server Explorer. Let's try that. Azure. Let's load that. Go to my storage. It's refreshing. The reason this Visual Studio actually picked up my subscription already, because I was logged in. So as you can see, I actually went and logged in over here. If you're not logged into your subscription, it will actually ask you to connect to your subscription. I've already done that. So it already showed up here. Looks a lot like this, right? Looks a lot like the Azure Storage Explorer. That's how they might have figured this whole thing out. PhDs. View blob container. Yeah, pretty much looks a lot like Azure Storage Explorer. Let's actually close that. But I just want to show you that you have another way to access the storage account from here. Okay, let's go. Let's wrap this up. It's been a while. So let's finish this with the conversation that we looked into the BLOB storage and looked into some security stuff of your storage account using the primary key and the secondary key. I was very excited creating this session, because I felt that this is something you're going to do every day as a cloud infrastructure admin or a cloud expert. So you are going to use BLOB storage, which is very important, because not only this is files, but this is also the VHD files that you can put over here. Okay, we looked into how to create containers in this session, which is basically nothing but a folder. You have different ACL or different access policies that you can put in there. And when you create a VHD, the container is going to be private, or the default one is going to be private access policy, but everything else you can actually put it as public, so other people can use the URL to access your blob. Okay. There might be a lot to observe in this session, so feel free to pause and try this out. That's my whole thing, that you should pause these videos and try this out and follow it, so you get that hands-on experience. I do not demo anything over here. In fact, I skip some of the stuff if I can't demo it over here, and I just mentioned that because I want you to get the complete value out of the sessions. Okay, and I showed you different tools how to use Azure Storage besides the portal and PowerShell, because in real life, yeah, great, you might have PowerShell scripts to do a lot of things, but some of these tools will make things so much simpler for you if you don't want to get it complete, like you don't want to get this complicated, right? And I use PowerShell a lot to actually do the AZCOPY stuff, because there are other things I can do there. I might have like 10 VHDs that the PowerShell is going to use different timer options to actually upload them when it's not the busiest time of the day. So yeah, you can use PowerShell to do this, but if you're doing this one-off or doing a little demo or little proof of concept, you can actually do this using those tools. And those tools I use quite a bit if you're going to move from one storage account to another one to migrate virtual machines, as well as to make the hybrid stuff from your on-premise to the cloud stuff in Azure. Okay, so I hope this is giving you a lot of value and you are excited with this session to do a lot more things. In the upcoming sessions, I'm going to start working more on the table queue and the file. I'll show you more interesting things that you can do with Azure Storage account. But for now, I think this is pretty cool. Try it out. Let me know in the comment section like what worked for you, different way you are using this. Create a conversation if you can, okay? And of course, like the video if you think it's a pretty good, valuable video for you. Okay, so as usual, my training site is at cloudranger.net/Azure training. You're most likely viewing this on YouTube at Cloud Ranger Network. Slides, slides, slides. I keep telling you guys, I'm sorry I did not have this before, but now I have it. My slides are at slideshare.net, Sean Ismail. So I'm going to upload all my slides there. It's already there, actually. Every time I upload a video, I go and put my slides there. Download the slides and get it from there. People email me asking me for the scripts. Well, some of the scripts, if it's a long one, I go and put it in my cloudranger.net blog. If it's not a big one, like the ones we use today, you can just take it off my slides. Go download the slide, it will be right there. Or pause the video. If you are going to try this out yourself, which I hope you are, you can just pause the video and just type it all out on your PowerShell and get the scripts that way. A lot of people email me, hey, can you send me the script for that? You know what, frankly, I try to give them whenever I can, but I'm like, why are people not taking this off the videos? Or are people not really trying this out themselves? You should be saving these scripts or these commandlets somewhere in a little notepad for yourself for your training. Because first of all, one, it's going to be extremely helpful for your exam. And two, it's all real life scenarios, right? I mean, you need to go and save this so you can do work in your organization or in your lab and everything as things come along. Right? There's more and more complicated things that will come along, more complicated environments that you create where you need to use this more often. For me, this is simple. One demo, it's done, but I have this master list where I'll keep all these commandlets for use. Okay, so get them from my slides. My Twitter is at Sean Ismail, where I tweet when new videos come up or anything else. My email is sean@cloudranger.net. Not very responsive lately. There's a lot to do, so I'm a little behind on my email. Feel free to connect me on LinkedIn if you wish to, get into more conversations or just be connected and see what I can do. Anyways, thank you for viewing. Please like the videos on YouTube, and I will see you in the next session. Bye.